united against Trump. Leaders from some of the world's largest powers right now joining forces to take on the White House. And the images are striking. Russia's Vladimir Putin shaking hands and laughing with Chinese President Xi Jinping and India's Prime Minister Modi, at one point even holding hands with Modi. The show of unity in China clearly designed to send a message to Trump and what Xi calls his, quote, bullying practices. The trio is notably about to be joined by another U.S. adversary, North Korea's Kim Jong Un. This is a picture of him in his bulletproof train, reportedly just now crossing into China. Kim steps onto the world stage fresh off a tour of his country's newest missile factory, one that North Korea claims is a cornerstone of its military expansion. A military that, according to Ukraine, is on the verge of sending up to 30,000 troops to Eastern Europe to provide Russia with more manpower. And as Trump watches these world leaders gather without him, he is lashing out at one. India's Narendra Modi, writing online that America's relationship with India has been a, quote, totally one-sided disaster. And yet, the one leader who is evading Trump's ire is Vladimir Putin, a man whose military launched a round of overnight attacks on Ukraine yet again. Also, the man who went before cameras today attempting to rewrite history, insisting that his invasion is all Ukraine's fault.
World leaders are uniting against Donald Trump, and the images from China tell a powerful story. Let's break down what this means for global politics and for America's future.
I will remind you that this crisis was created not as a result of Russia attacking Ukraine. It emerged as a result of a coup d'etat in Ukraine that was provoked and supported by the West.
Trump's prolonged silence on Putin's actions may also be emboldening the Russian leader. We're now learning a plane carrying the European Union's top official was targeted by the Kremlin. Shortly before landing, we're told the jet's GPS system was jammed by Russian technology. Ursula von der Leyen's plane was able to land safely using paper maps. The EU's top leader, we should point out, is a staunch defender of Ukraine. We have Ivan Watson tonight out front live in Beijing, as well as Kristen Holmes at the White House. Let's start with Ivan. Clearly a busy and symbolically important day for Xi, who is readying to hold this one-on-one with Putin.
That's right, that one-on-one, which is expected to take place here in the Chinese capital later today. You know, while the U.S. and the Trump administration have been disrupting America's traditional foreign policy position by with its global trade war, with the cutting back on international aid, with sharp criticism of traditional allies, China has been using this opportunity to present itself to its friends and partners and the world as a reliable, stable, and predictable global power.
In China, President Xi Jinping welcomed Russian President Vladimir Putin and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The symbolism here is clear, a united front against Trump's so-called bullying practices.
A show of international solidarity at a time of global uncertainty. Leaders of three of the world's largest countries happily rubbing shoulders at a summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Tianjin, China. The leaders of China and Russia have long complained that the U.S. and its Western allies have dominated international relations. So now they've gathered heads of state from across Asia and the Middle East into this vast building to call for the creation of a new world order. The host, Chinese President Xi Jinping, denouncing bullying and double standards and promoting China as a champion for developing countries.
The house rules of a few countries should not be imposed upon others.
Those points echoed by his close partner Vladimir Putin. Even as his military continues its nightly bombardment of Ukrainian cities, defying U.S. President Donald Trump's demands for peace. But the Russian president accuses the West of starting Russia's war with Ukraine and makes his own appeal for a new global system of governance.
A system that would replace the outdated Eurocentric and Euro-Atlantic models, taking into account the interest of the broadest possible range of countries, truly balanced.
And it doesn't stop there. North Korea's Kim Jong Un is making his way to join them after showcasing his country's newest missile factory. It's a reminder that America's adversaries are rallying together. Meanwhile, Trump lashed out at Modi, calling America's relationship with India a totally one-sided disaster. Notice, however, who Trump didn't criticize: Vladimir Putin.
But it is the presence of India's prime minister that has been most notable at this gathering. Narendra Modi came to China, still stinging from 50% tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on Indian goods. Snubbed by Washington, Modi is now mending fences with China, despite an ongoing Chinese-Indian border dispute that 5 years ago turned very deadly. Modi also spent an hour talking to Putin in the Russian president's limousine, demonstrating India has other powerful friends if it can no longer count on U.S. support.
So the Chinese leader Xi Jinping has been flexing his diplomatic muscles at that river port city of Tianjin at this regional security summit. Now expect him to flex his military muscles, quite literally, because on Wednesday he's going to be putting on a massive military parade here in the capital, Beijing, to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the surrender of Japan in World War II. Dozens of world leaders are expected to attend. The Russian President Vladimir Putin is here in Beijing. The Iranian president is expected to attend. And the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un is expected to attend as well. And according to Korean Central Broadcasting, his train has crossed the border from North Korea into China and is likely on its way here to Beijing right now. Boris?
That'll be quite a set of images. Ivan Watson, live for us in Beijing. Thank you so much.
As Putin continues his attacks on Ukraine, Trump remains silent. And now, reports suggest Russia even jammed the GPS of the EU's top official's plane before it landed safely. That's a dangerous escalation. This summit isn't just about optics. It's about creating a new world order. Xi and Putin are pushing for a system that challenges U.S. dominance, while Trump's America First policies isolate Washington further.
Let's go to Kristen Holmes out front at the White House. Kristen, a major show of force by America's adversaries, all organized by Xi. Trump largely silent about the Chinese leader, though. What is the White House thinking on all of this?
Well, Boris, as you noted, the Prime Minister of India, Modi, is sending a clear message to Washington amid these 50% tariffs, which we know from hearing from economists in India have really been detrimental to the country and long term will really hurt the country's economy. So President Trump has been taking out most of his frustration on Modi. It's a signal that Modi sent that was picked up by the White House. You noted that Truth Social post talking about this relationship, saying it was one-sided, blaming the prime minister. We also heard from one of Donald Trump's top trade advisors who called the show of unity troublesome.
It's time for Modi to step up. I have great respect for Modi. I love the Indian people. It was a shame to see Modi getting in bed as the leader of the biggest democracy in the world with the two biggest authoritarian dictators in the world, in Putin and Xi Jinping. That doesn't make any sense.
So clearly here you have the White House blaming Modi, blaming India for this, but we should make one thing clear, and I know Ivan laid this out. There was a strained relationship for years between China and India. This is the first time Modi's been back in China for 7 years, and partially it was about the economy as well. And now you see India looking for other options. Essentially, if the United States is going to stand in the way of India growing its economy, which is something they've been trying to do, to become one of the largest economies in the world, bigger than they already are, then they are going to look for alternatives. And you're going to start to hear from a lot of people who oppose these tariffs saying that this was bound to happen, that of course these large global economies are going to find economies that want to work with them. The big question is how this impacts the United States, how this impacts the U.S. And I do want to note one thing, Boris. We talk a lot about how President Trump hasn't called out Vladimir Putin, but we did hear something interesting from his Secretary of Treasury today, saying that sanctions were on the table and that Putin has done basically the opposite of what he said he intended to do, so they were still keeping their options open.
India's role is especially significant. After being hit with 50% tariffs by Trump, Modi is signaling that New Delhi has other powerful friends, and that shift could reshape global alliances. At a time when global powers are drawing closer together, Trump's policies risk leaving America more isolated than ever. This isn't just a photo op, it's a wake-up call for U.S. foreign policy. What do you think? Does Trump's America First strategy make the U.S. stronger, or is it pushing allies into the arms of our rivals? Let me know in the comments.